He wants to find diamonds in the rough with Meet Mike Wolfe, the American picker. The show made him rich and famous, but his marriage ended in divorce, which cost him $5.8 million. After a fight with him, his friend Frank died. Now, his store has suddenly closed, and fans are wondering if the show is even real, even though there have been fake fines and angry neighbors. Finally, the real Mike Wolfe story is being told, and it's not what you see on TV. Mike Wolfe was born on June 11, 1964 in Joliet, Illinois. When he was young, his family moved to Bendorf, Iowa, where he grew up with his siblings Beth and Robbie. His mother Rita raised them alone, working hard to support the family. Money was tight, but Wolfe never let that hold him back. He found opportunity in the most unexpected places to avoid bullies. On his way to school, he took a different route, cutting through alleys and backyards. That's where he first noticed something that others ignored: items people had thrown away. At just 6 years old, he spotted a banana seat bicycle lying in the weeds behind a neighbor's house. He pulled it out, cleaned it up, pumped the tires, and sold it for $5. It wasn't just about the money, it was the thrill of finding something valuable where no one else had bothered to look. That moment sparked something inside him. As he got older, he spent more time searching for old bicycles, furniture, and antiques while other kids were playing sports or watching TV. Wolfe was dragging home. He was determined to fix up old bikes and broken chairs, and his mother saw his passion and let him use the family garage as a workshop. He wasn't just collecting junk, he was also learning how to restore and sell it. His love of bikes led him to open a bike shop before he turned his attention entirely to antiques. In 2000, Wolfe decided to turn his lifelong hobby into a business. He opened Antique Archaeology in Lier, Iowa, a shop full of unique finds from his picking adventures. He spent his days exploring barns, garages, and abandoned buildings looking for lost pieces of history. The business grew steadily, but everything changed when American Pickers aired on the History Channel in 2010. The show was an instant hit, and viewers loved seeing Wolfe and his team find lost treasures across America. But it wasn't just about the antiques. It was about the stories behind them, the craftsmanship, and the people who once owned them. Antique Archaeology grew, and Wolfe opened a second store in Nashville, Tennessee, in a restored car factory. The room became more than just a store. It was a place where history buffs could connect with the past. Wolfe started his business with a simple idea: find lost pieces of history, fix them up, and put them in touch with people who understand how important they are. Because he could find interesting things and tell stories about them, Antique Archaeology grew into more than just a store. Besides selling old things, he started a clothing line called 2 Lanes that was based on road trips in small-town America. He also penned a book, Kid Pickers, which inspires children to learn about history through collecting. But Wolfe wasn't content with just selling antiques. He also wanted to save America's past. Through projects like This Place Matters, a campaign with the National Trust for Historic Preservation, he worked to restore historic buildings and small-town landmarks. For example, in Ireland, he took a 1947 Chevy dealership and turned it into a store while keeping its original character. In Columbia, Tennessee, he helped bring life back to buildings that had been forgotten, showing that history could be kept alive without losing its meaning. Mike Wolfe's journey to create American Pickers started long before the cameras rolled. He wasn't just another reality TV host chasing fame, he was a lifelong picker, someone who saw value in what others discarded. Wolfe spent decades traveling back roads, digging through barns and garages, and uncovering relics of America's past. He didn't just collect things, he collected stories. He filmed his adventures, capturing the thrill of discovery and the personal histories behind each item. Those videos became The backbone of his pitch to television networks. He wasn't selling just a show, he was selling a vision, a way to make history exciting by connecting it to the everyday people who unknowingly preserved it for 5 years. Wolfe pitched his idea with no success. Most networks didn't see the appeal of two guys driving around looking for antiques, but he refused to give up. He knew there was something special in what he was doing. In 2009, his persistence finally paid off. The History Channel saw the potential, and within months the first episode of American Pickers drew 3.1 million viewers, making it the History Channel's most successful debut since Ice Road Truckers. Within weeks, that number rose to nearly 4 million. The timing was perfect. Shows like Pawn Stars were already showing that history-based reality TV could work, and American Pickers fit right in with that wave. But what made it unique was its focus. It wasn't just a show about buying and selling. It was about the people, the places, and the forgotten pieces of history that were hiding in plain sight. A big part of the show's success came from Wolfe's partnership with Frank Fritz. The two had known each other since middle school and became close over their love of antiques. They both grew up without fathers and shared a love of the thrill of the hunt. When Wolfe created American Pickers, Fritz was the obvious choice as a co-host because of his laid-back attitude and interest in oddball collectibles. Everything from old toys to oil cans added a funny and warm touch to the show. He made people feel comfortable on camera, which helped collectors tell their best stories. Their chemistry made the show feel real. It wasn't scripted drama or forced interactions. It was just two longtime friends doing what they loved, and viewers connected with that. Even though tensions led to his departure in 2021, it's clear that he had a big impact on the show's early success. American Pickers stood out because of its unique style as well as its interesting hosts. Each episode was more than just a treasure hunt. It was a trip through history. Instead of just showing how much an item was worth, Wolfe made sure to show how important it was to the culture in which it came from, who owned it, and why it was important. This way of telling stories turned everyday things into strong links to the past. The show also had a message about being environmentally friendly. There was more to picking than just making money. It was a way to give old things a second chance in a world of mass production and throwaway society. American Pickers showed people that the past was still valuable, not just in money but also in meaning. From the start, American Pickers changed the way history could be told on TV. It wasn't about museums or textbooks. It was about everyday people's forgotten treasures and the stories that were hidden in the strangest places. Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz traveled together for more than 10 years. American Pickers was a hit because of their partnership, but behind the scenes, their friendship was falling apart. By 2020, their relationship had reached a critical stage, leading to Fritz's departure from the show. At first, there was no explanation, and fans hoped he would come back, but he never did. Wolfe said on Instagram in July 2021 that Fritz was out and would be missed after a tumultuous journey. Fritz didn't believe a word of it, and in an interview, he called Wolfe's statement in later bulls. Fritz said that he and Wolfe hadn't talked in 2 years, even though Wolfe knew Fritz had major back surgery in 2020 and never called to see how he was doing. Fritz said he felt abandoned by someone he had known for over 40 years. There was more to the feud than silence. Fritz believed that Wolfe was the focal point of the show, with a significant emphasis on him. He said he considered their dynamic to be a band where Wolfe was always the lead singer and Fritz played backup. But Wolfe's health problems made things even worse. Fritz had Crohn's disease for years, which made him weak and in pain all the time. In 2020, he had back surgery that kept him off the road for a while, and during that time, he became addicted to painkillers. The network had strict rules about drug use, and Fritz reportedly failed mandatory screenings, leading to his removal from the show. Despite this, Fritz maintained that he had not resigned, but rather faced termination. The feud got out in public, and Fritz accused Wolfe of putting his brother Robbie Wolfe ahead of him because Fritz was starting to look less American. On the other hand, Wolfe said that he had tried to help Fritz and even encouraged him to do so. He said that the breakup was painful and like losing a brother. By the middle of 2021, it was official, the History Channel confirmed Fritz's departure. Fans were upset because they had watched him and Wolfe travel across America for over 300 episodes since the show's premiere in 2010. Many people thought the show wasn't the same without him, and some started petitions to bring him back. But by that time, Brit's health had become a bigger issue than TV. Then, in July 2022, tragedy struck. Fritz had a severe stroke that left him partially paralyzed and unable to get out of bed. His condition never got better, and on September 30, 2024, at the age of 60, he died. Wolfe remained by his side throughout, despite everything. They had reconnected privately in May 2023, and after Fritz's death, Wolfe posted a tribute on Instagram calling him a dreamer who was just as sensitive as he was funny. Mike Wolfe became famous for finding lost treasures in barns and backyards on American pickers. But over the years, his image has been hurt, and some fans wonder if the show is really as real as it seems. Some people don't like how he runs his business, and his latest efforts to bring a small town back to life caused a lot of controversy. These problems haven't stopped him, but they have changed how people see him. In 2016, the episode, "Shelby in the Barn," caused one of the biggest arguments in American Pickers history. In it, Wolfe and his coworker John S. were looking for a Chevy neon sign in Alabama when they found a rare 1967 Shelby Mustang GT500 that had reportedly been sitting unused for over 40 years. The discovery appeared improbable, prompting fans to express their doubts. People read about it on Facebook, wondering how such a rare car could show up so conveniently on camera. Some thought that production staff had scouted locations ahead of time and set up finds to make the show more exciting, while others pointed out that reality TV always involves some planning, but this scene felt staged. The financial details added to the doubts. The Mustang was worth about $75,000 even though it was in terrible shape. Fixing it up would cost over $100,000. Wolfe offered $100,000 to buy it, but the owner said no because it had emotional value. This made rumors even stronger. Some fans thought the setup was planned to be dramatic. Some said the discovery was needed to keep the show interesting, but either way, it was one of the most talked about finds in American Pickers history outside of the show. Critics have also pointed to Wolfe's business methods. In 2022, a customer said that Wolfe's store Antique Archaeology had backed out of a sale to take a higher offer. They placed an order on the website, received a confirmation, and later received a refund without any explanation. This made them suspicious, so they filed a complaint with the Better Business Bureau, saying, "I think they took a better offer. I just want them to honor the purchase like they did originally." Antique Archaeology replied that two people bought the same item within hours of each other on January 21, 2022. A technical glitch let both payments go through before the system could update the inventory, so the second order was refunded. Despite this explanation, some customers were still angry. They had been complaining about the store for years, pointing out things like the high prices. Simple vintage signs cost $900 and branded socks cost $18, even though the business makes about $900,000 a year. These problems have made some people question Wolfe's morals, especially after the online order scandal. The worst criticism Wolfe has gotten has nothing to do with his show or shop, but his team promised to improve the website so that problems like these don't happen again. It's about how he helped change Colombia. In 2012, he bought a historic home in Tennessee for $700,000. He then spent over $1 million restoring it to its original design. That wasn't the only property he bought. He also bought a 2-lane vacation rental and a bike shop as part of his plan to bring new business to the town. Some people like his work, but others don't. Critics say he is raising property values and changing Colombia's identity. The announcement of plans for a $9.83 million, 6-story condo project heightened concerns. Some residents worry that their small-town charm is going away, while others fear they will be priced out of their own homes. Wolfe sees his work as a way to preserve history while creating jobs. He often shares updates on social media about his repair projects and shows off his collection of classic cars, which includes a $42.4000 1959 Chevrolet El Camino. But his love for old things hasn't stopped people from criticizing him. People are still arguing about how he changed Colombia, and for many, it brings up a bigger question: when does revitalization become gentrification? It's been years since Mike Wolfe last looked for lost treasures across America, but his personal life has been challenging too. He married Jody Faith in 2012, and they had a blissful life together for almost 10 years. But their marriage had some hard times, including Jody's battle with stage 2 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. After receiving a diagnosis in 2013, Jody underwent years of treatment and achieved cancer-free status in 2020. Even though they beat the cancer together, they didn't stay together after that. They split up in June 2020 and got a divorce in December 2021, saying they had irreconcilable differences. The settlement was big. Jod got over $5.8 million in cash and properties in Tennessee and North Carolina. She also got royalties from American Pickers and $2,100 a month in child support. She got primary custody of their daughter Charlie, but Mike has stayed an active and devoted father. He often posts pictures of himself with Charlie on social media to show how much he loves her and how committed he is to being there for her, even though he has a busy career. The divorce was hard, but it also helped him grow. On November 6, 2024, Mike turned 60. His girlfriend Letitia Clean celebrated the event with heartfelt messages about his journey and his accomplishments. Mike's birthday was a chance to reflect on what matters most. He spent decades on the road looking for antiques and telling stories of lost history, but now his focus had changed. He talked about valuing the small group of people around him and putting meaningful relationships ahead of work. Even with this shift in focus, his love for picking remained strong, and he still traveled across the country looking for rare finds and meeting people with amazing stories. His 60th birthday didn't slow him down. If anything, it made him value the trip more. Mike Wolfe has consistently searched for undiscovered wealth and historical significance, one discovery at a time. But the beginning of 2025 brought him an unexpected problem. In February, his Nashville antique store, Antique Archaeology, abruptly closed. He said a gas leak from nearby construction caused it, which he couldn't control. The store's staff apologized on social media and told customers they were working to resolve the problem. As of late February, they had not set an official reopening date, despite their promise of updates. Fans started asking questions right away. Some thought the closure was temporary, while others suspected something bigger was happening. With stores across the country struggling and American Pickers' ratings going down, rumors grew that this could be a sign that the Wolf was shifting. Could the store be in trouble? Even though there was no official statement indicating anything more than a brief closure, people were still asking these kinds of questions. For years, the Nashville store has been more than just a place to buy antiques. The store, which is in the historic Marathon Village, has become a must-see for fans of the show and people who like old fins. Along with its sister store in LeClaire, Iowa, it has been an important part of Wolfe's brand, a physical extension of his love for finding lost pieces of history. But no matter how successful a business is, closing a store unexpectedly can happen. Rising costs and changes in customer habits all affect how long a store can stay open. Wolfe has been in the business long enough to know this, and while he hasn't said anything about the Nashville store's long-term future, fans are hoping it reopens as soon as possible. The store closing was just one part of a much bigger year for Wolfe in 2024, which was already emotional with personal loss and big life changes. In September, his longtime friend and former American Pickers co-star Frank Fritz died. Fritz's 2020 departure from the show due to health issues complicated their relationship. But Wolfe was there in Fritz's last moments, holding his hand as he passed. It was a reminder of how they had built something special together by turning their love of antiques into a show that inspired millions of people. Filming for American Pickers will start up again in South Carolina in February 2025. Producers want locals to join in and are asking those with unique collections and stories to reach out. This is part of an effort to bring new energy to the show, which could be important since viewership has been dropping recently. Wolfe has always believed in the power of his work and has spent decades searching barns, garages, and forgotten storage units for something special outside of the show. He continues to grow his businesses. Two Lands Guesthouse, a boutique rental property, and Columbia Motor Alley, a place inspired by the past for classic car fans, are still important parts of his work. Even though he is juggling these different projects, his love of finding history is still at the heart of everything he does. Mike Wolfe is best known for his role on American Pickers, but his love of history goes far beyond TV. He has spent years turning his interest in antiques into something much bigger, from writing books to fixing up buildings. He has spent his whole life preserving the past in ways that affect millions of people. Wolfe's biggest project outside of TV is the book Kid Pickers, which he wrote to encourage kids to learn about history through old things. He aspires for children to perceive ancient objects not merely as objects, but as tales awaiting narration. The book teaches them how to find hidden treasures, research their history, and understand why these pieces of the past are important. It shows how Wolfe sees the world, not just as a collector, but as a storyteller who wants to pass on knowledge to future generations. For his love of history, he also made Antique Archaeology, a brand that includes while he's not picking, Wolfe sells hats, t-shirts, and other items that are inspired by his travels. His business is more than just merchandise. It connects people to his journey and lets them be a part of the world he has created. He has 2 stores, one in Lier, Iowa, and one in Nashville, Tennessee. Both are more than shops. They are places where history comes alive, full of unique finds from his travels. However, Wolfe's passion extends beyond collecting and selling antiques. He is resolute in preserving the locations where history unfolds. He works closely with the National Trust for Historic Preservation and uses his show to raise awareness about buildings and landmarks that are at risk of being lost forever. One of the most important campaigns he has backed is This Place Matters, which urges people to protect historical sites that tell America's story. His dedication to preservation goes beyond just raising awareness. He buys and fixes up old buildings in Columbia himself. Notch State he bought an empty 1947 Chevy dealership and carefully restored it while keeping its original character. Not only is it now a store, but it also serves as evidence that reviving old buildings doesn't necessitate their demolition. Wolfe has also spent millions of dollars bringing small towns back to life. He knows that when old buildings go away, communities lose more than just structures. They lose businesses, memories, and a sense of who they are. That's why he puts money into places like Lier, Iowa, and Columbia. Notch State not only by fixing up houses but also by helping these towns plan for the future. Nashville's Big Backyard is one of his biggest projects. Its goal is to help small towns with less than 5,000 people grow their economies. The program includes places from Muscle Shoals, Alabama, to Lies Fork, Tennessee. By getting money for marketing, tourism, and infrastructure, Wolfe is making sure that these places don't just survive, they thrive. His love for history doesn't stop with antiques and buildings. He is also deeply dedicated to collecting and preserving vintage motorcycles. Without telling his mother, he acquired his first motorcycle, which ignited his passion. Over the years, his collection has grown to include more than 130 antique motorcycles, including a 1913 Indian TNN and a 1934 Indian, the Harley-Davidson VL. Wolfe is especially interested in American motorcycles made before 1920 because they are from the early days of motorized transportation. He doesn't just collect these bikes, he also carefully preserves them. Unlike many collectors who fully restore old motorcycles to look brand new, Wolfe prefers to keep them in their original condition. To him, every scratch, dent, and bit of rust tells a story, and keeping them running is just as important as keeping them authentic. He doesn't just collect motorcycles, he also rides them. He embarks on extended, scenic journeys across the country, where he encounters fellow motorcycle enthusiasts who share his passion for the history of two-wheeled transportation. He has even worked with museums like Wheels Through Time in Maggie Valley, North Carolina, to help show off rare and historically important motorcycles. In January 2025, Wolfe got a lot of attention when he sold 62 bikes from his collection at Miam Auctions in Las Vegas. This wasn't just about selling, it was part of a shift in his focus. Instead of keeping every piece, he wanted to focus on certain periods of motorcycle history and give other collectors the chance to own something unique. He sees these bikes as more than just machines. They're like living stories that capture the spirit of adventure and innovation from a different time. He wants to make sure that history isn't lost, so he does everything from collecting old things to restoring buildings to collecting motorcycles. He wants people to value old things for their meaning, not just their rarity or cost.